Imagine yourself going on a beautiful hike on a hot, clear summer day. As you're hiking, you notice that you are starting to get sweaty and getting thirsty. You keep walking, and once you get to the top of the mountain, you take a break and drink a bottle of water. By doing this, you are trying to cool your body down and maintain an internal balance known as homeostasis. But are animals the only species that need to drink water? We know one of the characteristics of life is needing water, and since plants are biotic, they must need water. But how do plants drink? How does, for example, a 300-foot redwood tree in California get water from the ground all the way to the top of the leaves? A process known as transpiration keeps plants hydrated. This video explains how plants in tropical and temperate climates like North America, the equator, and parts of Europe stay hydrated. Plants that live in climates that are extremely hot and dry or extremely cold have adapted different methods of transpiration. Before we start talking about the actual mechanism of transpiration, let's first look at the typical parts of a plant. At the bottom are the roots, which are grounded in the soil. Plants have differing root systems depending on where the plant lives and the availability of nutrients. Straight up from the roots are the stem. Inside the stem are important structures known as xylem, shown in red in this picture. You can think of the xylem as small straws where the water will travel. And lastly, at the top of the plant are the leaves. Remember, the leaves contain chloroplasts, which are responsible for collecting energy from the sun and transforming it into glucose. The bottoms of the leaves contain structures called stomata. Stomata are like doors that allow certain molecules in and out. On both sides of the stomata are structures called guard cells, which get bigger to close the stomata or smaller to open the stomata. Some plants have flowers, but they're involved in reproduction, not consuming water. Now let's look at the actual mechanisms for how plants move water. There are three main steps in transpiration, and in this video we're going to start with the roots and work our way upward toward the leaves. The first step is getting water from the soil into the roots. On the root of the plant are millions of tiny projections called root hairs. Root hairs allow for more water and nutrients to be absorbed because they increase the surface area of the root. But how does water get from the soil to the roots? There are two main ways that minerals and water enter the root. The first way is to absorb the water through osmosis and move it inward through individual cell walls. The second way is to move water from cell to cell through small openings in each cell. Remember, the cell membrane acts like a door that allows certain materials in and out. Cell walls, just like cell membranes, have gaps in them, which allow certain materials to pass. The next step of transpiration involves taking the water from the roots up the stem and to the leaves against gravity. Humans have a heart that pumps blood and nutrients against gravity, but plants don't have a pump. They need to rely on different ways to transport materials. This is where those small straws called the xylem come in. The straws lead the water upward from the roots to the leaves. The xylem are so small, water molecules must travel single file up the tubes. If you were able to pull a strand of water from the top of the xylem, it would look like beads on a string. On the way up the xylem, the water molecules stick to the sides of the xylem. This is known as adhesion. This helps keep the molecules from sliding down. Water molecules also stick to one another, which is called cohesion. Cohesion and adhesion work together to keep the string of water from breaking on its way up the xylem. The last step of transpiration involves changing the water from liquid to gas form, where it evaporates into the atmosphere. When the water reaches the leaf, the plant uses only about 5% of the water for growth and metabolism. But where does the other 95% go? It leaves the leaf through tiny pores or openings called stomata. Each stomata is surrounded by guard cells. You can think of the stomata and the guard cell as a unit that is similar to a door. When a door is open, anything can move in and out, but when a door is closed, things cannot pass through. Chemicals cause the guard cells to expand or get smaller depending on the temperature and needs of the plant. Since plants use only about 5% of the water that is brought from the roots, the extra 95% leaves through the stomata as vapor while the guard cells are open. About 10% of the moisture found in the universe is evaporated from plants. Think back to the example of the person who was hiking on a hot summer day. They were sweating, and the evaporation of water through the stomata is essentially the plant sweating. This cools the plant the same way that sweating cools humans. But why does the plant let so much water evaporate instead of keeping and storing the water? It seems that storing the water would be more efficient. But actually, the water molecules evaporating through the stomata supply a constant string of water for the plant. As one molecule of water evaporates out of the stomata, it pulls the next water molecule it is stuck to up due to cohesion. Then that molecule evaporates and pulls the next molecule. This process is known as transpiration pull and keeps repeating. It ensures that the plant has a continuous supply of water to use for growth and to keep the plant cool in warm temperatures. In this way, plants regulate the water cycle by helping to distribute and purify the planet's water. Now let's summarize the three main steps of transpiration. First, water is passively transported into the roots through osmosis, where it is taken to the xylem. Second, cohesion and adhesion work together to allow the water molecules to stick together and travel upward in a column in the xylem toward the leaf. And third, the excess water leaves the leaf as water vapor through the stomata.